In this video, we're going to update our knowledge of information contained within the staff in order to help us write the sharps or flats found within a major scale in a more consistent and easy to read way. Now, before we do that, we're going to do a little bit of a review of constructing major scales using the whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone pattern that we learned in the previous video. Now, the first thing that many students like to do in order to have an easy reference is to draw themselves a little visual representation of the outline of the piano keyboard, and as a non-piano player myself, I find that this is quite helpful as well, as long as we quickly understand where all of the pitches are on the piano itself. So in this case, we're building a major scale based on A in the bass clef, so there is our starting A, or do if you are a singer. Next on the piano, we need to go up to B. B comes after A after all, and according to the piano, A and B would be a whole tone away from each other because this key, A sharp or B flat, separates them. However, when we get to C, we encounter a problem because B to C is a semitone because there is no separate black key in between B and C. So the modification we need to make to C is adding a sharp sign next to the C like this, because if we look at B compared to C sharp right here, we can see that C natural is the key in between B and C sharp, and therefore we have our whole tone. Then if we go from C sharp to D, we see there is no key in between C sharp and D on the piano, and we have our semitone exactly in the place that it needs to be. Next, D to E, the fifth note of our scale, is another whole tone because D sharp or E flat is in between, so our whole tone is good, but we encounter our second problem when we go to F. So E to F is a semitone because there is no black key in between E and F, so we need to take the F and jump it up to an F sharp, because when we go from E to F sharp, F natural is the key in between, and so we add a sharp sign next to the F to give us our whole tone. And our second last note of the scale, the G, if we go from F sharp to G, this is a semitone, but if we jump the G up to G sharp, F sharp to G sharp is indeed a whole tone because G natural falls in between them like so, and then all that we need to do is finish off our scale by ending on A once again, and we can see G sharp to A is a semitone because there is no key possible in between G sharp and A, and we see it fulfills the pattern of whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone. Now, the modification that we're going to make to this is not actually in the method at all. It's simply in the way that we depict the scale on the staff like this. So you'll notice that whenever we added a sharp to any of the notes in the scale, we always put the sharp to the left of the note that is affected. Now, if we do this, these are what we call accidentals, which are not simply wrong notes. Accidentals is the name that we give to any pitch on the staff that is modified by a sharp sign or a flat sign. Now, instead of representing the sharps or flats on the staff like we do with accidentals, we can actually represent the sharps or flats that a key signature uses or that a scale uses, oops, Freudian slip there, by using something that we call a key signature. So a key signature is a combination of sharps or flats that is written at the beginning of the staff before any of the pitches that are written in the staff like this. So what this key signature is telling us is that in order for us to get the whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone pattern, in order to make a major scale based on A, every single F, because the first sharp here is an F, every single C, because this sharp is a C, and every single G, because this last sharp is a G sharp, need to be sharp all the time, and that's simply what our key signature is doing for this. And this makes the scale easier to write as well, because instead of having to write a sharp accidental next to every C, every F, and every G, if we were to write F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp here, we don't actually need to write in the accidentals like this, because all F's being sharp, all C's being sharp, and let me just correct where the last sharp sign is supposed to go, and all G's being sharp is implied from the key signature. The only difficulty that students have is remembering the order in which sharps and flats are written. So you'll notice that F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp are written in a specific order, which is not the order that the pitches occur in the scale, because that's going to depend on what the starting pitch of the scale is. And for that reason, we designate a specific order of sharps and a specific order of flats in a key signature. So the order that we write sharps in is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. If you're the kind of person that benefits from a mnemonic to remember, F being the first sharp, F stands for father. C being the second sharp, C stands for Charles. G being the third sharp, G stands for goes. D being the fourth sharp, D stands for down. A being the fifth sharp, A stands for all. E being the second last sharp, or the sixth sharp, E stands for ends. And B being the final sharp that is written, B stands for battle. So the mnemonic that is often used to remember the order of sharps, Father Charles goes down and ends battle. And you'll notice that the sharps are written in a specific location like this. I actually don't really understand why the sharps are written in these places. It seems completely arbitrary. This is something that you're going to have to memorize. The good news is it's written identically in bass clef, just with the F being on a different line. So F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Oops, and B. There we go. Now, the good news is that if you remember the order in which we write sharps in a key signature, the order of flats is simply the opposite. So if we take the order of sharps and read it like this, read it backwards, we would end up with, oops, B, E, A, D, G, C, F. And we can actually almost reverse the mnemonic that we use here, and instead of being Father Charles goes down and ends battle, we can simply say battle ends and down goes Charles' father. If I can spell the name Charles properly. There we go. So, battle ends and down goes Charles' father is the mnemonic that we often use to help us remember the order of flats. But if you remember the order of sharps, the order of flats is simply found by going the other way. And we write flats in a much more recognizable pattern: B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. And you know that you've written the flats in the correct orientation and in the correct position on the staff, because you'll end up with two parallel lines of flats going like this, regardless of whether you're writing them in the treble clef or in the bass clef. So we can see B, E, A, D, G, C, F, two parallel lines exactly as we see here. So now that you've learned what a key signature represents, that being a way to show which notes are always sharp or always flat in a given major scale, now you can practice by, instead of constructing the scale using accidentals written within the scale itself, instead, once you figure out which pitches are sharp and flat, see if you can construct the scale by writing which pitches are sharp or flat in the correct key signature at the beginning of the staff that we see here before moving on to the next video.